Good morning, everybody. We're here today, I suppose, just to talk about International Women's Day, and the theme this year is to inspire inclusion. I really want to get your take on how you think we inspire inclusion here at Mitso and what's important to you. Because it's really important to me, obviously, that the team feel valued and that you thrive as people individually as well as professionally. So I think it's important that we do talk about it. So a couple of questions will not take too long. Um, and the first one really is about the theme and what it means to us all. Then, sort of how you think we inspire inclusion in the workplace, and what more could we do? So, I'll take the first question. What do you think it means as a team to inspire inclusion in the workplace and in everyday life? And what does this year's theme mean to you all? Um, so, I think for me, to begin with, when we're recruiting, we recruit very much for the person. Um, and we don't necessarily, think about different people's backgrounds and, whether they're, a woman or a man or whatever. It's not really about that. It's about the best person for the job. But I do really feel that, we have a responsibility in the workplace to support women and to support women through the ranks. From my perspective, I think it has been a difficult journey, setting up a business as a woman. And I've also had a lot of sort of female leaders that I've been very inspired by. But what I find is through the years as a woman running a business, there isn't really the support that you think there would be. And I think there could be a lot more done by the government to do that and to provide supports, whether that be when we're on maternity leave, that we do get some sort of financial support there, because, I pay myself maternity leave at the end of the day, and so does every other woman that has a business. I think we have to be very, very flexible as well in our approach. I do try my best to make sure that we have a flexible workplace and get that balance.
Like my last three bosses, including you, have all been female.
Yeah.
And been three different agencies, which to me is quite positive.
Definitely.
And so like there is area obviously for improvement, but in terms of like that gap of when I think the women had to work harder to get into those positions and to be able to obviously like cover themselves when they're off on maternity or childcare as well. When obviously it's not just maternity, it's obviously when once the baby's born, it's a couple of years there.
Exactly.
So I think it's like changing that mentality as well.
We work with so many like women with our clients. There's Annie at Sicky, there's Orla Mairead at the Canal Court and Cartdale. There's Cara Heaney, who's just done her e-commerce site for Willow Collective. And it's even just seeing again those like entrepreneurs. And I think even for us, especially Charlotte and I sitting in a room with Annie and Oscar, you always get different like feel of where they see the business going. Or like even for me, I find Annie very inspiring to be in a room with her. Because she's always so optimistic and looking to the future and building Sicky as a brand.
I think, the theme inspire inclusion this year is definitely about celebrating women and celebrating our successes and how far we've come, while also acknowledging, as I say, Mia, that there are gaps there. And I think it's, particularly important that we're still supporting and empowering women who maybe still aren't afforded the same opportunities that they should be. It's a really interesting one in our industry in particular as well, because I think you see that it is quite female dominated at a certain level, and you see, that shift at like a C-suite level where you start to see that it is maybe the other way, and it's quite a lot of men at that level. So it's definitely worth the conversation to understand why that's maybe happening, or is there anything that we can do to make sure that women are getting to those roles and those levels, and what that support looks like.
So, how do you think Mitso inspires inclusion in the workplace at the moment?
For me, definitely. I joined a couple of years ago, and I think from the get-go, I've always felt that Mitso has been really supportive. We are obviously a team predominantly made up of women, and maybe you've always provided that flexible work environment for us. If we do have a medical appointment or we need to go somewhere, you'll always say yes, no problem, no questions asked. And I think it's been really good to see that over the past couple of years, you've really invested in us as a team and in the business. You are, getting those grants, for the likes of training. We've just secured a grant from Invest NI to upskill over the next year or two, and that's really exciting, and it's great to see that you're always, you know, pushing for us to be able to get those opportunities as well.
I think just like leading on from what Charlotte says, like internally, Maeve has always kind of, even when I joined as an intern, as part of my master's, and it was always the case that like everyone's opinion mattered. Around the table, I remember it used to sitting there going, "Oh God, I'm not sure if my opinion's really like worth it." But in actual fact, everyone comes from such different disciplines. Like we have a web developer, graphic design, Charlotte's on brand communications, and Hannah's a digital exec. So it's always like, even though we might be working on like a website project, everyone's opinion always kind of really like matters, and we always view things in a different way. How I consume digital and social media and website is very different to what Hannah would. So I think it's always been very inclusive in that way, where your opinion always will matter and everyone's opinion is respected.
I suppose it would be good to get your take on that as well. You know, I'm looking at one of the parts of this year's theme as well, Gemma, around promoting that creative and artistic talent of women and girls. And so how do you think we could do more in the workplace to do that?
I think female role models is a big thing. Like we discussed, there's quite a lot of females starting off in the industry, but there's not a lot at the top. So I think this is why training and development of your skills plays such a massive role, especially in my field of work, because, you know, females account for just 17% of creative directors in the UK, which I think is absolutely astonishing because there's so much female talent out there. So training, dedicating that time, being encouraged to advance your skill set and getting up to those higher levels, and then becoming an active role model in that industry, which is something I personally am always thinking about and really want to tackle myself. And like you said, just being heard, like maybe you're so good at hearing all of our individual voices. And as soon as we walk through the door, you know, you want to listen to what all we have to say.
Definitely going into those pockets of the industry where you maybe don't see as many women. You know, the likes of web development, I think, is that aspect of the industry that then does become more male dominated. And I know in 2022 we went to our first Digital DNA Awards and we won best e-commerce project of the year, and I think we were not expecting it at all, and it was really surprising to see, you know, people coming up to us and saying, oh, we've never seen an all-female team on that stage before, you know, for that award. So it was quite enlightening to see, okay, there are still, you know, barriers here that, you know, maybe there is an opportunity for us to break through and say, why can't we be there? Why can't we do that?
So the final question you'll be happy to know is, what do you think we could do more in the workplace and specifically here at Mitso to inspire inclusion?
Definitely touching on what Charlotte said, you know, showing up in spaces that we aren't usually in. So definitely in those like digital and tech events where sometimes they can predominantly be male, I think is a big one. And I know we're obviously getting our office renovation soon. So that'll definitely inspire and encourage us more creatively, and I think encourage us to advance our skill set probably a lot more, and be confident in our roles as well. I know that we have a voice in our roles, so probably going into more like speaking occurrences would be really good. Something I'm not really that comfortable with, but I think it's important to push yourself outside your comfort zone. And again, with the training, advancing our skill set, being role models in our industries, I think is a really big one.
I'd just like to jump in and add that as an apprentice, I believe it's important to continue uplifting other young women, inspire them to start apprenticeships, to gain insights and experience in this industry.
HLA is so good as well, Hannah, because we have a situation where we have a lot of females and males coming out of university and degrees with not necessarily a lot of digital skills. So it gives you that on the job support as well, which I think is really, really important for females coming into the industry. Because if we're trying to fill gaps and, you know, with tech roles and things like that, and we're not doing what needs to be done to give the skills that are needed to, it's very difficult when you come out of university and you're trying to get a job in a digital agency or in a creative role or tech role, and you don't have any skills or experience. So I think that's why the HLA has been really, really good for you.
As well, Maeve, you've always kind of like from the start, you kind of always said like that you want to like support younger people. Like obviously I joined as an intern. And we've had other interns and placement students in the past, but it's even just given that experience and like if it's 1 week, 5 months, a year, a couple of years, it is so important in our industry to like even just see the real life versus the actual like the books and the education and the theory behind it. So it's been so like important to my career to get that experience and hands-on, and it's been such a help. And I think even for Hannah joining, it's good to even get like a fresh pair of eyes, like social changes every day and how we like consume content changes. So it's always good to have a younger eye on the team.
Obviously you've recognized it's really important to have a good working culture. So like earlier this year, or was it late last year, that you appointed like Charlotte as head of culture to make sure we're always being on top of that and making sure like we're an attractive place to work at as well for the people like coming out of university that look at Mitso, look at our culture and be like, that's somewhere that they want to work.
The culture starts to slip when people feel stressed and we're not maybe, as organized as we'd like to be. So we're taking measures to do that. But I think sometimes as a business owner, you lose track of what's going on sometimes, and you lose track of, you have so many other things in your head. So I think it's really, really important to establish people who are naturally just really good at having an impulse and a pulse on everything that's going on there. So Charlotte, you've been brilliant with that.
Yeah, I think it's been a really important part, as you say, coming off the back of a very busy Q4. Our industry, and I know Gemma touched on this, we are creatives and we are constantly putting out creative work and demanding creativity of ourselves. And I think having a good work culture and a work environment that supports that creativity and encourages that creativity is really important to avoid that burnout, because if we're not happy, you're not producing your best work. So it's been a really nice part of my role, starting to kind of develop more of a culture strategy for the business.
So I think that's it. Has anybody else anything to add? Or
That was great.
yeah, lovely Friday, and I'll catch you later.